Hello, my friends. It's Bradley J. Welcome to the Bradcast, or a Bradcast. With us today, we have the grand and great Chachi Loprete and the equally great, although not as well known to me, John Logan. How do you do, Chachi and John? They're here because there's a super good event that is so good. I'm probably going to go called "Come Together a night of Beatles Magic." But magic is used two ways. Of course, anything to do with the Beatles is magic. But we're talking actual magic. Could that be?
Mhm.
Hi, John. Hi, Chachi.
Bradley, a pleasure to be here with you, my dear friend. I've known you for 40 years, starting at WBCN, and I always enjoy being with you. I love your YouTube channel. Everyone should check out Bradley J's YouTube channel for great episodes.
Thank
And
you.
once again, it's an honor to be with you, Bradley. I got a very special guest with me, as you said, John Duke Logan. And John and I met, a few months back, and he is an esteemed magician, a keynote speaker who has built his own course in life where he travels the country and the world as a keynote speaker with his mantra, impossible is just a word. And he's been on a TED Talk. This gentleman, and I don't mind promoting what he's done, he's a very humble guy. He was on America's Got Talent with his magic, standing ovation, the entire theater, including the judges, Howard Stern as well. So they loved him. And then he earned the nickname of and maybe John, you can correct me, but New England Patriots magician, team magician. He was nicknamed that because he began doing tricks with the players, including Tom Brady and the like. And John Logan did many televised broadcasts with the players performing magic, and they loved him. And right now, he just returned from a 9-date run in Louisiana with New England Super Bowl Patriot Malcolm Mitchell. Did 9 shows together, and John does his magic. And so John, listens to my radio show, I think, and he has come to my theater shows, sent me an email, introduced himself, and we found a way to work together. And our first event is Monday night, September 12th at the City Winery Boston. It's an early evening event, 6:30 to 8:30. There it is. We're celebrating the Beatles' performance at the Boston Garden 58 years ago to the day, September 12th, 1964. So that's one aspect of the event. The other aspect is we tell stories of the Beatles, and John performs magic relating to those stories. So, John, I did a lot of talking. So if there's anything I missed, you may certainly add in. And you can see behind me, Bradley, that's John's book. I mean, John, can I tell him you're only 28 years old? He wrote that book 10 years ago,
Yeah, it was a
and
while.
he's done it all himself. He's a self-made career guy. And so, John, please, what did I miss? Anything?
I don't know. That was a lot, man. I feel honored right now. You have to just come around with me everywhere I go, and that's how you should introduce everyone I meet. Wow. No, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I've been very lucky over my all my life, and I'm very lucky to have turned a passion into a career, and I love what I do. And I have my own show. It's called Magic with the Beatles. I have the shirt on right now. If you want to learn more about it, it's called magicwiththebeatles.com. So I integrate magic. I tell stories about the Beatles, but you kind of learn in a fun way. So it's really fun. I talk about some tricks are about the different Beatles personalities, and then I'll do a trick around someone else's personality. There's some tricks I talk about iconic moments in Beatles history, like when they met Alan Klein, and Alan Klein kind of screwed him over, and Paul wasn't didn't really like him and didn't really trust him. So I talk about trust and body language and communication and things like that. So it's really fun because you walk away, learn a lot about the Beatles, and you walk away having fun too, which is the goal. So,
John, tell
yeah,
Bradley his story. Bradley, listen to the story when he was 12 years old. Bradley, go ahead,
yeah,
John, tell him that.
yeah. So the way I got into magic, I was actually really bored at a family party. I was only 12 years old, and I went in the other room and I just started making a magic trick just to entertain myself. So that night I went back home and I filmed myself performing the tricks and I put them online. And one thing led to another, and a talent agency found the videos and didn't know how I was doing them.
Yeah, now hold on. You were only showing your hands in the
Yeah,
video.
yep, only my hands. So they didn't know how old I was. So they reached out to me and learned I was only 12. And we just talked a little bit, and they admired the way my brain works and the creativity and things like that. So I ended up working for them, and I was really lucky at a young age to work with people who were on the same team as David Blaine, David Copperfield, Penn and Teller. So, and I fell in love with it ever since. So I really love the whole creativity part of magic and part of life, and that's kind of what my whole brand is about. Impossible is just a word. How can you look at life from a different perspective? So,
Do you have any idea about how your brain works differently from, say, Chachi's brain and my brain? Because we've had a great life, but we accelerated at a much more slow rate than you. How do you do it? What is it about your brain or you or your upbringing or whatever that gets you that got you to hit the ground running so quickly and go so fast? Is it simply energy? Do you look at things differently? Are you some kind of genius? Seriously, what's the deal?
I'm definitely not a genius. I'll say that.
You might be, and you can admit it. I mean, how much of it is I'm smart? How much of it is I work hard? How much of it is I look at things differently? How much of it is my parents? When I was 3, they had me running on a rabbit wheel or whatever. What is the deal?
That's a very good question. I think it's a little combination of everything. I've also been very honored to have a great team around me and surround myself with people that we all push each other. We all help push each other, which I think is really.
But you had to be smart enough to get this team. Tell me about a team. How do you get a team, Chachi? We don't have a team. We need a team.
We have no teams.
I need a team.
Well,
Chachi, will you be my team? No, we need better people than each other.
Well, my team is with my beautiful bride, Stephanie, who is the executive producer of our shows at the winery.
Right.
So she's done a lot of this work too. So that's my team. But
I have all right, Shannon is my team too, but I think I need more of a team. Go ahead. So answer my question at more length. How do you do it?
Definitely.
How do you do it?
So I have 2 magic people that help me out. One of them is named Stathi Zaff, and we met around 10 years or so ago. So we collaborate a lot on different. He's one of the most creative magicians that I know. I also have a great team member named John Vale. He opens up my shows during Magic with the Beatles. Chachi, he's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's amazing. And luckily, his name's John as well. We live 5 minutes away from each other, and he has just been phenomenal help. Just absolutely incredible. And it's just great because we have different styles of magic. So he helps me. What if we tried this? Like, oh my god, I never thought about it that way, and vice versa. So he is just, you got to check him out. His name is John Vale. I got Brett Powers as well. He's been my best friend since 2nd grade, and even though he doesn't perform magic, he's probably the smartest person I know. He's very good with math and numbers, very analytical. So he has a perspective of, he's seen my whole career, from when I first started getting into it until now. And so he really understands magic, doesn't perform it, but he also has a very analytical mindset, and also provides me advice from an audience perspective and say, don't say that, it's too corny, or, I like the direction in this. So he has a lot of great perspective that way. So, and I have Tom Dodge helping me with video, Alec Lai helps me with some business stuff. So I think the key to it is very similar to the Beatles, that we all have different personalities and we all have different strengths and weaknesses, which I think is very critical if you want to be creative in life. And
First, I guess we do kind of have a team. We have John Graham. He's always on.
He's always on the team.
And I must say, there's a great guy named Wayne Greenside, who's super helpful to me, and he's very helpful. He was a listener at WBZ, and I just need to give him a shout out. I shouldn't say I have no team, because he's very helpful. Let's get back to this gig here, this thing, because that's the reason we're here. Paint the picture of what I will experience when I go to this gig, because it's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on, and we realize it's a Monday night, so we want people to maybe get there right after work, and they'll be home fairly early. It's a 2-hour event, 6:30 to 8:30. And it's going to be, the umbrella of it all is first John's Magic, but also the occasion that it's 58 years ago to that very night the Beatles played the Boston Garden. So we will have people at the event that were there and saw the Beatles in '64. They will share some recollections. We have a short newsreel that includes some footage of the Boston Garden, and they're arriving at Hanscom Field at 3:30 in the morning on the day of the show. And so we'll have recollections, we'll have storytelling around the garden show, and general stories about the Beatles. John will perform magic throughout. We'll play trivia. We have some great prizes, including original Beatles vinyl from our friend Bob Walsh at Cheap Thrills Music in Dedham. And so it's going to be a lot going on in a 2-hour span. It's going to be a Beatles celebration, celebrating the Beatles music, and John with his magic and the music. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, the winery is a great place. Fantastic food and beverages, of course, wine. And it's going to be the first of, could be a bunch of series of shows at the winery. And we know we're going to do one in October as well for John Lennon's birthday. But we kick it off on September 12th. John, what did I miss?
I think you nailed it. I think it's I don't think the winery has ever done an event like this before, because there's so many great variables all in one. Again, it's you got the magic, you have tons of stories, we have great prizes. So it's just a big fun-filled event all in one. So it's all themed around when they came to the garden.
John, how did you come into be contact with the Beatles? How did your Beatleness take place?
Right,
Yeah,
he's
so
pretty young, right?
Yeah, so there are two stories. One, I was 8 years old, and I remember getting the one CD, the greatest hits, for Christmas one year. And the first track was "Love Me Do," and I said, "Wow, this sounds really unique." And every single song, I fell in love with it. And then, I think growing up, I wasn't a massive fan, but everyone loves the Beatles, right? But then I kind of really got back into them when I was in high school, and someone told me about the whole "Paul is dead" thing. That whole story, and I love things like that. So I from there I listened to interviews of them. I started listening to their music more, and just one thing led to another, and I just fell in love with them again. But this time I was just more intrigued by them, because you listen to an interview about the whole Paul is dead thing, which then relates to another interview of them just at the regular press conference, which then leads to so all these little things, and I'm like, wow, they're just phenomenal. Yeah.
While we're on the Paul is dead thing, Chachi, you're an expert.
Yes.
What was with the Paul is dead thing? Can you give me the detail on that?
Well, for many, many years, they denied that those little clues were ever put in there. But then throughout the years, they'd make a little bit of comment here and there that they kind of knew. But I remember when it happened, the Beatles were kind of leveling off a bit in album sales. They lost some fans because they got into the psychedelic era, the drug stuff. But I remember when those clues began to happen, reading about how album sales went through the roof, and it couldn't have happened accidentally. It had to be put together in some way. And so it's funny. John and I both saw Paul at Fenway Park, and people still joke about, is that really Paul on stage? So it's stuck through the years. In fact, behind me I have a book with all the clues, and it started with two college students who noticed something strange about some of these records, and they called into a radio station, and next thing you know, it just spread like wildfire, and everyone started buying the albums, listening for Paul is Dead, Miss Him, I Buried Paul, clues on different albums. Paul's wearing a black rose because there were no red roses left. There were no red ones left. There was a black one. So and the Abbey Road. So all these different clues. Some were innocent clues, but I think some were planted. But they denied it for so long. But Ringo and Paul maybe alluded to it here and there. But I thought it was a interesting story, and it really boosted their sales in '68 and '69.
Whose idea do you think it might have been?
I don't know. I really don't know. If I get to interview Paul again, I plan on asking him. But it could have been Paul. He was running the band back then. Who knows?
And for those who are listening, maybe don't know what we're referring to. There was a rumor that started that essentially it was in November 9th, 1966, that the original Paul McCartney that was in the band, got into a car accident, and he actually died. And the Beatles had a look-alike contest. So, and the person who replaced him, looked like Paul. So from November 9th, 1966 and onwards, it's a different Paul McCartney than the original Paul, and there's all these little hints and clues in their
Yeah.
song lyrics and their album covers to honor the original Paul and to kind of hint at this whole theory.
It would be
So
tough to
maybe
find a
they-
person that looks like Paul and sounds like Paul and is an awesome songwriter and musician like Paul.
Yes, that is true.
So
You know, but-
do. Go ahead, Judge.
Well, the other thing about our show, and John can allude to this because I've seen 3 of his Magic with the Beatles shows. I've loved them all. It's very audience interactive, and you'll be amazed at, John denies he's a mind reader, but I think he has that aspect about him, and he just puts things together, and you sit there, and he includes audience members, what they might be thinking or what they are looking at in a book, and he figures it out, and it's very audience interactive, right, John?
It is, yeah. Thank you. And I think when I put my show together, I 2 goals in mind that fall under the same umbrella. If you know nothing about the Beatles, you would have a good time, and if you know everything about the Beatles, you'll still have a good time. So I wanted it to be this educational yet entertaining show where you're learning about, again, the greatest musical group of all time, but you learn about it in a really fun and engaging way, and that was my goal. And I've had some great feedback, and it's been really fun. It's been really fun. Yeah.
And Bradley, he's a fascinating keynote speaker. He was on a TED Talk, and in the video, it's on his website, I think. He brings a woman out of the audience, and he ties it in with his work with the Patriots, with different musicians, and the woman's like running her hand around the big board, and John's not looking. He's away on the side of the stage. She points to an artist. He comes back, puts his hand on her head. He's thinking of all these musicians. He names the right one. And the girl, who seems like a college age girl, is completely blown away that he figured out of maybe 30 musicians, the one that she was thinking of.
So
right, John?
You're going to have to spell this out a little bit more, John. What the trick Chachi's talking about? There was a blackboard or something, and you were pointing to things.
It's actually kind of very similar to this I have behind me with all the albums.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a Beatles. It was just random. It was like this, very similar, but just different bands and musicians on it. And then I had her close her eyes, and I had my back turned, and I think I counted to 5 or something, and she would just do this, and then when I said stop, wherever she was landed on, I would have her think of a song by that musical artist. And I think she stopped at Ed Sheeran. And again, my back was turned, and I said, okay, whoever you're thinking of, think of a song by, and I think it was Shape of You, I think. I forget what the exact song was off the top of my head. But then I came back, and she was the only one. She didn't write anything down. She just merely thinking of a random song by a random artist that she pointed to. She didn't say anything out loud. And then I kind of thought, I looked at her a little bit. I wrote something down, and I said, for the first time, what song are you thinking of? It said Shape of You, and I turned around my notepad. And that's what it said. So the stuff I do is very similar to that at my shows, but I relate it back to the Beatles, and you learn, and I'm telling a story while I'm presenting it as well, so you get to learn about it. So again, you learn about the Beatles, but really in a fun and engaging way. Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to go, Chach. I'll
Bradley,
see you there.
you are invited.
I'm going to see you there.
Yes,
this
you
is
are.
great because it's on the tee, man. That's the thing for me. And I don't like to. I don't drive a whole lot, so this is one of the things you do that I can get to. I'm going to make sure I do.
Well, there'll be some people there that and
Who?
we would love to have you there. Bring a guest or two, and we will always accommodate you, Bradley.
Anybody else like any of the BCN people or anybody that folks? would know?
Could be. We don't know if David Bieber is going to make it yet, but David Gallant, Beatles professor at Suffolk University, the different people that were at the show at the Garden. But it remains to be seen how many BCNers will be there, but I suspect that there will be some. So,
Okay,
yeah.
let's finish up with the maybe coincidence that this is the exact date of the Beatles playing their first gig, right?
Well, it's a magical coincidence that we picked the 12th. No, we picked the 12th because, obviously we wanted everyone back from the summer. But then we realized, hey, the Beatles played the Garden just down the street. This might be a good tie-in. So we want to tie in some historic Beatle events to our shows that John and I do in the future. So it was a bit of intention there, just to add more mystique to the event.
So if you were to be this Chachi, if you were to be a person who saw the Beatles in 1964, you'd have to be older than you are now, probably, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
I was 7
All right.
when
So
they
you'd
played.
have to be at least 14 or 15 to see him, or something like that. So here's the question: would you give up? Would you say, you know what? I'll be 8 years older if I could have the memory of seeing the Beatles for the first time. Would you give up 8 years of your future life for that memory?
That's a
No.
tough one because that's tough because I am obsessed with dying. I'm so afraid of it. So I think I like where I am. I was right on the outskirts. I had 2 older brothers and an older sister, and I just got sucked into the vacuum of them. But yeah, and I didn't see them at Suffolk Downs. I had 2 very Italian parents, and they didn't like me growing my hair long. They didn't like the music. So I don't think I would have been able to go regardless. But it's a
Okay.
tough question, Brad.
Anyway, you guys, thanks very much. This sounds like a wonderful event, the first of hopefully many more. Once again, the details are, it's called Come Together, a night of Beatles magic, mystery, and history. And it's Monday, not this Monday, but next Monday, September 12th, 6:30. It's early, so old folks can go, or people at work in the morning can go, and
Yes.
young folks can go. It'd be
Yes.
fun to get a bunch of young people. You know, there are some hip young folks that discover vinyl and discover stuff like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, and hopefully using this medium we'll get some of those folks too. John,
Yes, well-
Chachi, thank you very much. Anybody want to add anything?
If I may just do a quick plug, we are back on stage in October, Eric Taros and I, for our John Lennon film celebration, October 2nd in Rhode Island at the Odeum Theater, October 9th, Sunday afternoon at the Regent Theater, and October 15th in Danbury, Connecticut. It's the Eric Taros and Chachi film presentation, so we'll be there. Breakfastwiththebeatleschachi.com for those, magicwiththebeatles.com for John's stuff. And September 12th, John, before we go, if there's anything you'd like to say, but we're going to be at the City Winery Boston. Fabulous evening, some great prizes, fantastic talent, John Duke Logan with his magic, lots of Beatles stuff to do, prizes and music. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, John?
Yeah, nice. I see a few comments. John says it's a show for Beatles fans only, or for everyone, essentially for everyone. But it's a good thing if you do like the Beatles, though, because it will be a Beatles-related show. What type of magic can we expect to see? Lots of little mind reading, a lot of audience interaction, things like that. I don't want to give too much away.
Right.
But yeah,
Sleight of hand.
sleight of hand, things like that. Not sawing anyone in half, no bunnies out of a hat or anything like that.
Okay. The show is interactive, John. That was a question.
Yeah,
And
the show is interactive. Well, Chachi performs some of his magic of his own.
No.
Chachi
No.
is magic. He just is magic. Being there is his
Yeah, he
magic.
is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Brett says something he probably should be careful about saying. Would you really, dude? Really?
Left
And why
leg
the
to see
left
the
one?
Beatles.
Why did you? Why the
I think a
left
lot of
one?
people may. I think a lot of people may.
Well, that
I
might
would-
be that because Paul was left-handed with his
Oh,
guitar.
okay.
Maybe it's. the
I'd have to
left
draw
leg.
the Beatles. They're great. I admit they're the greatest band ever, but I have to draw the line there. You guys, thanks so much, everyone. You can help Chachi. You can help me share the heck out of this and comment and you do all the stuff you know you're supposed to do. So, John and Chachi, if I don't see you before then, we'll see you there then. All right.
Thank you, Bradley. We appreciate your hospitality.
Yes,
Bye,
thank you very
John.
much.
Bye, Chachi, and bye, y'all.